Graham. It's great to have you on. We know Coutinho mostly from his time in the Liverpool, at least here in the UK. He excelled there for a long period of time, but it's been a fair few years since then. So, what kind of a player are Aston Villa signing right now?
Francis, nice to be talking to you about the mighty Villa. Look, essentially, I don't think anything has changed about Coutinho, the footballer. There have been spells where he's been injured here, but nothing that's debilitated him in a way that you would say, now I see the problem. What's gone wrong over, and ironically, it's 4 years to the day as you and I record this, that he left Liverpool for Barcelona. What's gone wrong is that this is not only a turbulent club, but a big, voracious club, which when he came still had the remnants of real system football. I mean, absolutely positional dominated football, and it had Messi. And Coutinho walked into a trap not of his own making, whereby, because Barcelona had been so maladroit, so stupid about not seeing Neymar's building willingness, intention to move away and to let Paris Saint-Germain pay the buyout clause, because Barcelona didn't see that coming, they lashed out on a footballer who, although I initially didn't see it because he came having been a fluent, intelligent player, and despite his diminutive size, he'd made an impact on the Premier League, he'd made an impact on Liverpool. And I went and did my diligence about speaking to staff at Liverpool, asking them, I won't name them, one of them is guessable, asking them about his quality, asking them about his personality, his attitude, meshed with the evidence of my own eyes about his technical ability, and bringing in what his former employers were saying about him at Liverpool, and then listening to his words about wanting to study Iniesta and learn from Iniesta.
Yeah,
you think to yourself, well, this guy's got a fighting chance. And what Villa are getting, when you asked about other material changes in the type of soccer player that you're getting at Villa compared to what you saw at Liverpool, 4 years older, damaged in terms of self-belief, but fundamentally the same footballer. I don't see a major problem there. There are things that Villa are going to have to do correctly to maximise this loan deal. But I personally don't think that he's a particularly different footballer than he was at Liverpool.
But what was it at Barcelona that particularly seemed to affect him? Because I think from what I recall when he started there, he actually had an okay start. And I remember him getting a couple of sort of classic Coutinho goals, whipping it top corner, right foot. So I don't know, like what kind of went wrong for him so quickly there at Barcelona? Why has it been such a struggle?
Look, principally, I don't disagree with your analysis, but it's really sad for him that an okay start and okay performances at Barcelona aren't good enough. They weren't good enough at a time when Barcelona were still stacked with, a really vital Leo Messi, buzzing, crucial. And Iniesta, who finished his time at Football Club Barcelona, still really powerful. If you look, for example, at, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sorry for not having gone back and checked this, I think Coutinho scored in the cup final that marked the end of Iniesta's career at Barcelona, where Iniesta stormed that game. Again, from memory, it was against Seville. That was a time when the coach, Valverde, was struggling to work out where Coutinho worked positionally.
Right.
Because it wasn't Valverde's decision to bring him to Camp Nou. And it was very much the president's decision that this is the way that I close the wound. I look, because he lives about 50 meters away, higher up than, because he gets to get an attic apartment. But he could be listing right now, Bartomeu. But his ego was very much, how do I make people impressed with me having looked like a dolt with my Neymar? And you have to figure that into the answer to your question, because Coutinho came because there was money to spend, because they thought it would light up the Barca support and make people think, what a brilliant piece of business. Another Brazilian in, Neymar doesn't matter. It was just, it's very rare that a signing like that, where the criteria are skewed, then also happens to be just the right guy and just the right footballer. And Coutinho wanted to do little, he wanted to play little jazz solos, whereas Barcelona was like all about football intelligence. When you move the ball, how few times or how you use your judgment, where to beat a man, for example. So the things that I saw that weren't working, Messi lost patience with him very quickly. He just didn't rate his football intelligence. It's also true that his press is non-existent. He'll make, if he loses the ball, he'll make a little effort. Oh look, and these things began to be more and more damaging as his confidence went down, as he himself worked out well. They were still trying to play 4-3-3 and left high up, in the front three was where they wanted him to play, or maybe in the left midfield position. Gradually, his performances, his confidence were actually undermining his ability to play there. Injuries then played a dramatic role. And by the time he was loaned out to Bayern Munich, it frankly looked like a snowballing situation, whereby initially he'd come into a team where he was competing for natural positions with Iniesta and Messi. Well, that's a pretty brutal task. And then as his confidence went down, Barcelona's performance levels were dipping. The pressure of every time he came on the pitch, it felt like the media and the Camp Nou were like, well, we'll do something. That's not propitious climate for any creative footballer at all. And all I would say was it month after month, there was an erosion of understanding how to use him, his ability to understand what was needed, as the system part of Barcelona broke down. And gradually they went from Valverde to Kiki Setien to Koeman, who spoke out loudly about wanting Coutinho, about trusting him, about believing that he could make Coutinho a success at Barcelona. But of course, the Koeman era was dogged with, how would you say it, a change to 3 at the back, which went down very badly. The loss of Leo Messi in the second season. Time after time, it was a brutally difficult environment in which a player of confidence and a player of creativity could thrive. And it's been a catalogue of errors, of declining confidence, and of chaos, a catalogue of chaos at the club. Coutinho cannot have believed that he was signing up for a club which was literally chaotic.
Yeah.
And to that degree, Francis, he has my sympathy.
So do you think that, we talk about what a pressure cooker it was at Barcelona and how difficult it was just getting on the pitch every time, fans expecting so much of him. Do you think that Aston Villa, Steven Gerrard as a manager, somebody who he played with at Liverpool, who rates him highly, is also a personal friend of his, and at Aston Villa, the pressure's obviously not going to be as high as it is at Barcelona. Is this pretty much the perfect move for him right now, would you say?
I hope so, because one of the things about your club and your team is it's as much as you are under pressure, it's not chaotic. It's a pretty well-run club. I was really sad. I disagreed with the idea about removing Dean Smith, but now, if you look at the Beale, McAllister, Gerrard combination, you've got 3 very distinct heads, mentalities, all of whom very much fit with what Coutinho needs, which is to be told a very clear rendition of where his role is in the team and what to do, what's expected of him, pardon me. But secondly, and still more importantly, you talked about the manager, Steven Gerrard. Gary McAllister is a massive, massive fan of Coutinho.
Right. And
my judgment is that Philippe Coutinho right now does need bolstering. He does need not just we use a cheap, quick expression about arm around the shoulder. Modern football, I think, when you're trying to get the maximum out of a creative player who needs to take risks, accept creative risks on the pitch. It's about giving him an environment where he can take risks. He can occasionally fail, but he can understand where on the pitch that's tolerated, how often it's tolerated. And if you take those creative risks, as he did more for Liverpool than for Brazil, and I remember him playing in quite a stodgy Brazil team, often moved over to the right rather than maybe playing on the left, coming onto his right foot that I think he probably prefers. If he's in a Villa team that's functioning, that's hard-working, that's playing the brand of football that mostly we've seen since Steven Gerrard took over, it's an area where I think some of the things he doesn't like doing, doesn't do well, will be done around him.
Right.
And many of the things that he does do well will be helped to flourish, because the daily environment isn't going to be all like, Philip Coutinho, you're a god, you're a maestro. Yeah. It's going to be like, we know what you can do. These are the things we expect you to do. These are the things we don't want you to do. These are the places you mustn't lose the ball. And I think things like his one-touch football, his choice of how he goes past a man, when he goes past a man, his shooting from distance, which intermittently looked interesting at Barcelona, where it looked sensational at Anfield. These are things that I see no reason why they shouldn't return. And I also believe that he's not a sap. I'm not saying he's a soft man, but I think he is one of these footballers, one of these human beings that's far happier in a supportive environment, in a productive environment. And not all footballers are like that. There are a heap of footballers, who are like, I don't know if I can be my normal expressive. They're like, fuck you, I'll show you, and like I'll show the fans, and chin to chin with rival players, or chin to chin, toe to toe within the dressing room. They exist. They're fundamental to the style of football that we like in the Premier League. But Coutinho is not one of those. And I think that the people around him, and even also just getting a game, Frankie, in all seriousness, he's like I said, he's 4 years older. He thoroughly needs to be playing again, to be extending himself, finding the touch, finding the movement, the dart into space, all of these things that were crucial to him, that they need to return.
And like we look at him positionally, Villa tend to play a 4-3-3, quite narrow. They've got Emi Buendia as a creative force already up there. So the idea of Buendia and Coutinho playing together behind Watkins sounds quite appealing. Where do you think he'd fit in potentially at Villa?
Well, is your formation still 4-4-2?
4-3-3 we tend to play usually, I think.
Well, if it's a 4-3-3, then the brand of football that I think the Premier League has, he can clearly play left of the front three, left of the middle three, or right of the middle three. My opinion is that he still feels his most productive position is in the left of the middle three. But the Premier League is it hasn't got any slower, it hasn't got any less physical in the years that he's been away, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And for a player that is clutching at form and confidence and momentum and physical fitness too. Physical fitness isn't the right word. Match fitness, stamina,
sharpness.
When you're looking for these things, my opinion is that it's a risk if you're playing in the midfield of a very hard-working club. So my opinion would be that if he's playing in a 4-3-3, then particularly if you've got overlapping left back or left wing back, he's a left player from the front three who drifts into a 10 position.
Yeah,
I think not an outright winger, probably front left in a three rather than left in a middle three. I think the manager will know better than that. You asked me my opinion. The Coutinho I see is possibly not yet ready for the heat and the demands and the tracking runs and the pressing of a three-man engine room. So whereas that ability to be the link player, particularly in transition football, break football, if he's nominally left of a three up front, but is allowed to drift in because there's a left midfielder or a left wing back who can who can use the line, and he comes inside. His link play, his ability to receive, turn, and give, particularly you name Watkins, who's quite quick, and who's a guy who likes to play when he's got the opposing defence or opposing centre midfielders turning and looking, where are we? These are things that Coutinho can definitely facilitate.
Yeah.
So, but these are things that also that I'm sure your listeners who've paid any attention to his time at Barcelona and Bayern Munich over the last 4 years should probably know already. The mystery thing is, where's his confidence at? Where's his stamina at? How quickly in daily work can these things be restored?
Yeah.
And if they can be, and I trust those three that I mentioned who've come down from Rangers. I don't know the rest of your existing staff that have stayed on, but I do trust those three, and I do believe in them. And I do believe that one of the key things that Coutinho needed was just to be told, we want you. You're right for us. Largely, when you're fit, you're going to play. You're going to be on our team sheet, and it matters to us how you perform. You're not just loose changing an operation. You're not somebody we're trying to push out of the door, which Barcelona have been trying to do for a long time. So the conditions are there for Coutinho to thrive, and it would be a happy. I know it's much more important to you that he plays, that Villa wins, that you move up the table, all those kind of things. But for the neutral, he remains quite an exciting, quite an interesting player.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't enjoyed some of the things I've seen him do, because I like footballers who are cut slightly differently, particularly mentally.
Right.
But in terms of getting out, of a place where he didn't feel loved, where he didn't feel understood, and where his confidence shriveled, I do agree with you that the type of support you've got there, the type of team that is around him, because you have quite an athletic, quite a hard-working team, and the coaching team and good facilities that you've got. For my taste, the odds favour it being a good move, and I'd like to see that. I'd like to see him performing again.
Well, that's great to hear. I'll just a couple more questions, but we have to talk about the finances. Extraordinary fee Barcelona bought him for. I mean, I could talk about the Bartomeu era for absolutely years, honestly, extraordinary. But what kind of wages is he on? I'm aware that Villa are apparently paying less than 50% of his wages for the loan spell. So kind of how much would that add up to? Are you aware of?
I've got a broad awareness. I'm not one of those writers that now, 20 years ago, I did not live for the transfer market, but I enjoyed it. I had my scoops. It was worthwhile. I'm interested now in a strategic sense about what the market does. But I don't live for transfer fees and wages. What I can tell you is that his gross wage in euros was in the region of 12 or 13 million in euros. Now, you calculate that down into what that is weekly or monthly, and what's clear is that Barcelona haven't, as you said, managed to persuade Villa that they pay the whole wage. That's right. Barcelona are still assuming part of his wage.
Yeah.
For my taste, the bigger deal for everybody comes if he's played well from now till May, and the idea is to make the deal permanent, because it's clearly a buyer's market in terms of the fee that Villa would have to pay to Football Club Barcelona. And at that stage, it's also clear that although Premier League wages can be absolutely extraordinary, Barcelona were overpaying in every sense.
Yeah.
They got just about every part of this deal wrong.
Yeah. And
therefore, even should he succeed, I think there's some really big. I think he's still represented by Steven Gerrard.
Right.
And I think there is still some, extremely tough negotiating to be done by Villa if they choose to keep him over the months. A decision that probably I don't think they'll be finally making a decision in June. You'd imagine that by mid-April, they've got a very clear idea about, is this the right guy at the right time, and can we do the deal financially? Barcelona are in a weak position. So my hope would be that if, like you and I have been talking about, Coutinho flourishes, it's possible that you can push through quite a healthy deal with the selling club, and then good luck with Kia Jarabshin.
Yeah. Just a couple more questions. Coutinho himself, do you think just as a player, he's better suited to the style of the Premier League than to La Liga, which to me, I think teams look...
Frankie, you wouldn't have said that. Because he's failed, because it has been a failure at Football Club Barcelona, and he was successful at Liverpool, and he's now been grabbed by Villa. Your argument looks sound. I don't think so.
Right.
In fact, to me, it's counterintuitive, because the Premier League is still, for my taste, it's evolved so much to try to include much more strategic thinking.
Yeah.
The tactical nous on the pitch compared to 10, 15 years ago is gigantically changed. The Premier League, in terms of its squads, has the balance between run fast, jump high, knock your opponent over, to outthink, outplay, strategize, has gone like that. And I think it's to the benefit of the Premier League, and it might partly be to do with hiring foreign talent and scouting, football direction, coaching, academies, and players.
Yeah.
I think that has played a huge part in that, as has the development of young English, British, Irish talent coming through the academies in the Premier League. It's not wholly a continental improvement, but nonetheless, Coutinho isn't so outstanding that his physical stature isn't an issue. Like, the Premier League should be a place where, for a player like Philippe Coutinho, it should be a little bit harder to thrive. Your proposition was that the Premier League's an actual place and La Liga slightly less so. Outside Football Club Barcelona, particularly in the era when it was system, La Liga should have been just about perfect for Coutinho. Not all the clubs, in fact, the majority of clubs don't play such a strict system whereby it's all about your position, your timing, your reception of the ball, your timing of your pass, and then your next position. It's about where do you pop up? Can you beat a man? Have you got a shot from distance? Do the crowd love you? Many of the things that make Coutinho an international player, a famous player, should have made him, could hypothetically have made him successful at the majority of. He wouldn't have fitted well in Cadiz under the current manager, for example, where it's all like, we don't want the ball, we've got a mistake, kick it, chase it.
Yeah.
But predominantly across the rest of La Liga, the characteristics Coutinho has should have been absolutely fantastic. You know, if Nabil Fekir can be a success, who's all improvisation and self-interest and greed and tricks, and he's loved, and Betis want to renew his contract, and the fans think he's great, and the journalists all write about him, and you know, he's not all that. we're completely honest. And Betis, the last time I looked, were sitting third or whatever. You know, if Nabil Fekir can succeed like that and be that kind of demigod down in green and white, then flipping Philippe Coutinho should be able to too. But you know, that in this instance wasn't to be, because he picked the wrong club at the wrong time.
Yeah. Well, just kind of on a scale of I don't know, 1 to 10, how excited should Villa fans be at the prospect of Philippe Coutinho joining the club?
Well, it depends on the age of the people in the whole end now. You know, if you grew up watching Sid Cowans, for example, then yeah, man, yeah. Or Gary Shaw, or whatever, like I did, the Geddes. Why wouldn't you be? I mean, listen, football is based on football. None of us would fucking love the badge or turn up every weekend if football wasn't largely based on hope rather than intellect. Why wouldn't you be excited? Coutinho's skill set hasn't declined. His ability to fill the net from 28 meters hasn't declined. He's a bundle of fun. You probably don't have a similar player in your squad, I don't think. He's not as one of the things I loved about Grealish was the change in him when he spent much more time building up his core strength, his thigh strength. And when in the interview with John McGinn said, "Listen, it's been brilliant. It's been watching him month after month, almost like do this to opponents, like, come on, try and kick me if you want. I'm going to push you over. I'm going to get away from you." Coutinho isn't built like Grealish was.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's a direct replacement. But are there similar things in his repertoire? Maybe. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if I were a Villa fan and I hadn't been watching Barcelona, my excitement would be an 8 out of 10. If I was a Villa fan and I had been watching Barcelona, it might be a 6.5 out of 10.
Right.
So I don't know what the number is in between those, but I guess your viewers can work that out for themselves now.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of Barcelona since the Van Gaal era, so I'm quite well aware of how he's gone there, and I'm just being as hopeful as I can. But Graham, thank you very much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you.
I enjoyed it up the Villa. I still have hugely fond memories of watching that Villa side that I talked about with Des Brenner and Mortimer and the two central defender Scots, and one of the guys that I always loved watching, Sid Cowans. And over the years, and the time when Rambo McAnally was there talking to Big Alan about being at Villa was extraordinary to listen to. It's a great club. Good luck with your podcast. Best luck, Villa fans. And I hope Coutinho does the business for you.